Hi, I'm Kyle Oliver, Digital Missioner and Learning Lab Coordinator in the Center for the Ministry of Teaching at Virginia Theological Seminary. Our tech report today is all about podcasts, what they are and how to listen to them. You can think of a podcast as basically a radio show that instead of being broadcast out on the airwaves, gets downloaded by the devices of the people who regularly listen to that podcast. That can be a computer, or increasingly it can be some kind of mobile device like an MP3 player or cell phone. So let me tell you about how that subscription process works. If you get a lot of content online, you've probably heard of a feed, an RSS feed, an Atom feed. These are all ways in which web content creators send out content that is regularly updated. And so any podcast is going to have a feed, and you have to tell the program that you're going to use to listen to the podcast to look for that particular feed and then to get updates from it. So let's say you want to listen to the Easter People podcast, a podcast that we here at the center are helping to contribute to. You, of course, could listen online in the embedded player that comes up on the web, but it's much more efficient to go ahead and subscribe because you'll get future episodes of the podcast automatically downloaded to your device. If I scroll down in the show notes, I can find the link to subscribe to the feed. That's sometimes called a feed URL or a feed link. In any event, the feed link here, if you just put it into a browser, you get a bunch of gobbledygook. But if you put this link into a program that's designed to parse and play podcasts, you'll see that it comes up as various episodes of the show. So let me first show you in a very free, lightweight podcast application called gPodder, which is recommended by a site we like called Lifehacker, which is a great article about various options for podcast apps. It's very easy to do this in gPodder. You go to subscriptions and you add a podcast via URL. Since I'd already copied it into my clipboard, it came up. If I wanted to, I can type a different URL, but of course this is the one I want. So I paste it back in and click add. It's going to look at that feed and figure out what kind of content is there. It might download some album art and download whatever episodes are around. Usually there's some cap to the number of episodes that it'll download if it's looking for some very large number. We'll let this feed here. Oh, it couldn't add it for some reason. That's interesting. Let's try one more time. There we go. It came up, Easter People, episode 1. So we'll go ahead and tell it to download. If there were many episodes of this podcast, we might just pick the most recent ones or the first couple so we could get a taste. In this case, there's just the one episode. And so here it is on the list of shows that we've subscribed to in this podcast app, and you can see it's downloading up here. A much more likely application that you might use is iTunes, and iTunes allows you to subscribe in just the same way that we did just now by going to File, Subscribe to Podcast. But there's a second way that you can subscribe to popular podcasts, and that's by looking in various stores. There is a store, or libraries. There's a store associated with iTunes, of course, and so let's try to subscribe that way. I'm going to click in here to the iTunes store, and I'm going to search for Easter People. Probably a lot of things are going to come up because that's a common expression, songs and whatnot called Easter People. But if we scroll down further here, we come to podcasts. And we see that the Easter People podcast is the first one listed here. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to subscribe. Again, you can see there's one episode. It's 39 minutes. It's not very popular yet. Hopefully that'll change. But in any event, this is an alternative way to subscribe. So that's a little bit about podcasts, how they work, and how you might subscribe. There's a bunch of great faith podcasts out there, and if you'd like to read about some of them, I suggest you check out Key Hall Online. That's our key resources blog here in the center, and you can look for or search for the podcast tag, and you'll see episodes of this particular podcast, but then lots of others that we've reviewed that we listen to. So thanks very much, and we'll see you on the podcasting airwaves.